We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Daled Amud Beis in Meseches Nedarim. This is Nedarim Daf 54b. And the previous Amud, Rav Chisda said that the Mishnah in Meila is not following Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah. Because the Mishnah in Meila says, let's say a person says to his shliach, get some basar for the orchim, for the guests, and instead the shliach gets kaved, so that's considered not following the instructions of the balabayas because he got liver instead of meat, and therefore if Meila was committed over here, if we're talking about items of hektish, it is the shliach who committed the Meila. And so Rav Chisda said, that's not like Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah, because Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah said that if a person makes a neder, let's say from Yerek, so anything that a shliach would consult the balabayas and think that might be Yerek, let's say diluin, let's say gourds, that would be included in the category of Yerek. And so the same should be true over here. The kaved should be included in the category of basar because it's something that the shliach might think belongs to that category. And Abaye responds, Milo moder Rabbi Akiva. No, Abaye says it could be that the Mishnah in Mila is Rabbi Akiva, because wouldn't Rabbi Akiva admit that sarach imluche, that at the very least the shliach needs to consult? The issue over there in the Mishnah in Meila was he brought the kaved without even consulting, and therefore indeed that's not like following the instructions of the Mishaleach, of the Balabayas, and that's why it's the Shliach who committed the Meila. And the Gemara continues, Itmar Shmaita Kame de Rava. So this sugi was said in front of Rava, meaning what Abaya just said, to explain that the Mishnah in Meila could even be like Rabbi Akiva, was said in front of Rava. Amar Lahon, and he said back to them, Shapir Amar Nachmeni. Nachmeni says correctly, meaning what Abaya says is correct. And the Gemara continues, Man Tana de Polagoled Rabbi Akiva. Who's the Tana who argues on Rabbi Akiva? Again, Rabbi Akiva is the one who says that the person makes the neder from Yerek, so we say Diluin is included. Who's the one that argues with Rabbi Akiva? Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. It's Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. The Tanya, as we learned in a Braisa, Hanoder min habasar. Let's say, for example, a person makes a neder not to have basar, not to have meat. Asr b'chol minei basar. It's asr to have any kinds of meat, according to the Tanakama. The asr barosh, uveraglayim, uvekana, uvekaved, uvelev, uveofos is also asr on all these different items from the animal, all these different parts, the head, the feet, the windpipe, the liver, the heart, and also asr to having meat from birds. But it's mutter for him to have the meat of fish or the meat of grasshoppers. That's not included in basar. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, Hanoder min habasar, somebody takes a neder not to have basar, asr b'chol minei basar, it's asr for him to have all kinds of meat. However, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, umutter barosh uveraglayim uvekano uvekavid uvelev uvofos. It's mutter for him to have the head or the feet or the windpipe or the liver or the heart or the meat of ofos, of birds. Ve'ein tzarich lomar b'sar dagim v'chagavim. We don't even need to say, it's obviously mutter to have the meat of fish and to have the meat of grasshoppers. V'chein hayir Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel Omer, and similarly, Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, Kirvayim lav basar, that the innards of the animal are not considered basar, v'yochlein lav barinish, and those that eat it, they're not even considered to be people. And the Gemara explains, Ochlehen kebasar. Actually, those who eat the kirvayim, the innards, it is considered like basar with regards to nedarim. What Rav Shimon ben Gamliel was saying was, Le'inyan zivini, in terms of purchasing it, lav varinish. That a person is not even considered a person if he purchases the innards. The Mefarish over here explains, V'chein hay Rav Shimon Omer, Shmaita achrisi, this is a different teaching. Kirvayim lav basar, v'ochlein lav bar noshu. He said the innards are not basar, and the people who eat them are not considered people. V'amrinan l'mai hilchasa kirvayim lav basar. And on that, the Gemara says, well, what do we mean? Kirvayim is not basar. We said before, by nedarim, if you take a neder from basar, that would include all kinds of basar, even the kirvayim. V'lohotzi kirvayim, we're not excluding the innards. V'kametaretz, and that's what the Gemara explains. The hayochlain lav bar nosh l'inyan zivini. When it says that those who eat the innards are not people, we're talking about purchasing. Sha'akona kirvayim b'dmei basar sheyochol liknos habasar. If somebody has money that he could have bought meat and instead he buys the innards, v'kona kirvayim lav bar noshu. That's not a person. The bala daito etzel b'nei adam. He's not acting like a normal person. In any case, what do you see from this brayso? So you see that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says that if a person makes a neder not to have basar, so he's asur in all kinds of basar, but mutter in the rosh and the raglayim, the kana, the besar ofos, etc. And so therefore you see that Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, he's the one that argues with Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says diluin is considered within the category of yarek, would also say these different parts of the animal are considered within the category of basar, and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says they're not considered in the category of basar. And the Gemara continues, Ma'ishna b'sarof l'tanakama, the asir. What is the difference that the meat of a bird is considered forbidden according to the Tanakama, and it is considered in the category of basar? The avid shlicha de mimlachala, because it happens to be that the shliach would sometimes consult and think that it's included. B'sar dagim nami avid shlicha, but also by the meat of fish, isn't that also the shliach might also think it's in the category of basar? Dilo mishkach bisra, because if a shliach wouldn't find basar, mimlachala, he would try to decide that maybe he would consult with the person and say, is fish included? To amar ilo mashkachna bisra, I see dagim v'lisra. Again, a person will say, if you don't find meat, so let's bring fish, and therefore, again, it should be prohibited. It should be included in the neder. And the Gemara answers, Amar Abaya, Abaya says, Kagon shehekes dam. We're talking about an individual who had a bloodletting, and when people have a bloodletting, delo achel dagim, they generally don't eat fish, and therefore if the person who made the neder just had a bloodletting, we can assume that fish was not included. But the Gemara says, Yachi, if so, afilu ofos nami lo achel. So a person who just had a bloodletting also would not eat birds, so that also should not be included. The Yamar Shmuel, because Shmuel said, the mesucher v'yachel bisra de tzipra, parach libe ketzipra. He said somebody who had a bloodletting and he ate the meat of a bird, so his heart will fly like a bird, meaning it's going to be bad for his heart rate. V'tanyan, we also learned in a braysa, in makizin lo al dagim, v'lo al ofos, v'lo al basar maliach. You shouldn't let blood, not eating fish, not eating birds, and not eating the salted meat. V'tanyan, we learned in a braysa, heikes dam, if a person let his blood, lo yochal lo chalav, v'lo gavina, v'lo beitzim, v'lo shachlayim, he shouldn't eat milk, cheese, eggs, cress, v'lo ofos, and not birds, v'lo basar maliach, and not salted meat. And so therefore you see again that ofos is something also that is not eaten by somebody who just had a bloodletting. And if the person let blood and that's why fish is not included, so ofos should not be included either. And the Gemara says, no, shani ofos to efshal yedei shlika. Ofos are different because it's possible to boil them, and then they would be fine for somebody who let his blood, and therefore the ofos are considered within the category of the neder when the person makes a neder from meat. And the Gemara continues along the same lines. Another answer, Abaya Amar Abaya says, Kegon dekaiven le'ene, the person has his eyes are hurting him at the time that he makes the neder. The dogim koshen le'naim, because fish are difficult for the eyes. Gemara says, if so, achel dagim. On the contrary, a person who has a pain in his eyes should eat fish. The Amar Shmuel nun samach ayin, because Shmuel said that what does it mean nun samach ayin in the aleph base? That's the order of the aleph base. Nuna sama le'inayim. It means that the nuna, the fish, is a good medicine for the eye. So on the contrary, if he has pain in his eyes, he would eat fish. And the Gemara answers, Hahu sof ochla. That's talking about at the end of the illness. Then already it's good for the eyes, but otherwise it is not good for the eyes. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph.